Very important announcement for you watching this. Do not let what other people do and how they're building their business intimidate you and throw you off of your game. There are so many people that I see in business that they are watching other people who are already successful, and they're looking at those people and they're going, well, I can't do that. I'm not that type of person. So therefore I'm going to quit. This isn't for me. That is one of the most ridiculous things that I see that steals people's dreams. I can't tell you how many times I've shown people, other people, I've said, hey, listen, look at this person over here. They're crushing it. Look at how successful they are. They're making six figures. They're making multiple six figures. Take a look at this person. And instead of looking at that person and soaking in the possibilities and saying, wow, if that person can do it, I can too. They look at that person and they go, well, I don't like the fact that they got extensions and all kinds of makeup and they're dressed all sharp and they got a fancy car and, they're all into this stuff that looks materialistic. That's not me. I'm a big spiritual person and I can't relate to that. So I don't really think this business is for me. That's one of the most ridiculous things that you can do. It's one of the most ridiculous things that you can do because guess what? You don't have to be that person to be successful. You're not called to be someone else. You're called to be the best version of you that you can possibly be. So don't get intimidated and don't get psyched out by other people. Some people, they build their businesses very aggressively on Instagram, TikTok. They've got fancy videographers, or they've got really great engaging social media pictures. They're doing really cool dances on TikTok to get people's attention, and they're dropping stuff in about their business. And there are people that are looking at these people who are doing this and they're going, oh, no, I don't want to do social media. I don't want to talk to my followers. I don't want to be pitching on there. That's tacky. They look at those people who do that and then they use that as a justification for why they won't be successful or why this business isn't for them. That's crazy and that's ridiculous. Look at these people and what they're doing and think to yourself, is there anything I can borrow from them? Is there something that I can do that they're doing that might be able to apply into my business, but I can use my unique voice, my unique God-given abilities and talents, and marry some things that they're doing with what I'm doing? That's a great and healthy perspective to take. There's also the perspective that you can take when you see someone doing something that you can't do, and you can say, wow, I really can't do that because I don't have, hips like Shakira. I can't dance on TikTok. So therefore, maybe that's not going to be my platform. But maybe you can still do the same type of videos on TikTok and Instagram or whatever, but not put your face in it. I actually was in Egypt recently and I was talking to this girl whose team is blowing up and she uses TikTok to build her business a lot and Instagram, and they do a lot of reels and stuff like that. And she was talking to this girl, and because of her faith, she's Muslim and she comes from a family where that's not something that her family would be excited about. They would actually frown upon some of the stuff that she's doing. So you know what she did? She looked at all these other people who had the camera facing them and are doing all the dances and stuff like that. And she was like, okay, how can I still take advantage of this, but not do it that way? And you know what she did? She instead used the other end of her camera, and instead of recording herself, she started recording beautiful scenery, and she would just put text on the screen. She would take similar text to what some of these people were putting and really great music, but instead of it being her going, clap, clap, whatever it is that they do, and point, to the things, and the text pops up. Instead of doing that, she just faced the camera around, took a picture of the beach, had really great music, and then just had the text pop up without her ever being in it. And she was showing me videos where this girl's got like 500,000 views and has got all kinds of leads coming in because she's building her business on TikTok without even showing her face. That's a perfect example of seeing what someone else is doing, modeling it, but then adopting it for your own personal situation. And what I see happen too often is seeing other people and how they're doing something, and instead of going, isn't that interesting? What can I use from this? What can I learn from this experience? Instead, they get intimidated and go, I can't do this, I quit. It's the worst attitude that you can have. Worst attitude that you can have. I know that I felt like that the first time I ever saw my mentor prospecting people. The first time I saw my mentor, Mr. Larry Gregory, I said, how is it you just walk up to total strangers and get their phone number and then set up an appointment to like sell them? And like, how is it you do that? And I was in the Gold's Gym parking lot and I was 21 years old, about to graduate from college. It was brand new. And he goes, it's easy, kid. Let me show you. And he literally walks right to the door where everyone comes out of the gym. And he just decides to prospect like the next 5 to 7 people in a row right there as they're walking out of the door, right? And there was a high traffic time, so people were walking out the door and he just, first person who walks out and he goes, hey, how you doing, young man? My name's Larry Gregory. What's yours? You just got a good workout in? Fantastic. This is how he talks, right? He's very like charismatic and he talks like that, right? Got a great voice. Very powerful posture. He's 55 years old at the time. And he's just prospecting these people. And I'm looking at him like going, holy crap. And he goes, you keep your options open, son? He's calling people son that are like older than me, right? So he's able to call people because he's older. He's able to call guys that are like 40, 45 years old, son. He's able to, charismatically talk to people in ways that I just could not see myself doing. And the first time I saw him do that, he went bam, 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 pulled like everyone's number that walked out of there. They were interested. Like, yeah, sure, I'm interested. What do you got? Blah, blah, blah. Right? I saw him do that and my mind wasn't like, wow, man, what can I learn from that? Personally and personal development wise, I wasn't there yet. I was still very immature. So I looked at that and I said, oh my, there's no freaking way I can do that. Hell to the no. Okay, prospecting is not for me. Now I didn't quit the business. I just wrote that off temporarily because I was like, I could never do that. But then later, I got a little bit smarter and thought, wait a second. Maybe walking up to someone that comes out of the gym over and over and over again and literally treating that like a revolving door of opportunity. Every time someone walks in and gets a guy's number, goes back to his car, he'd give him a tape cassette, prospect them, they'd leave, and then someone else would come out and he'd do the same thing. Boom, 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 boom. Maybe I can't do that. Maybe I can't say young man, young lady, but maybe I could borrow, for example, one of the things that he did was he talked to a guy, and I'll never forget it. He was a mailman for a living. And he goes, oh my goodness, you're a letter carrier. Well, one of my good friends, Mike Humes, he actually happens to be a letter carrier too. And he pulled open this book and he showed him this book that we had called The Profiles of Success. And inside of it, it had all of these different stories of people who are 6-figure earners and who were successful in the business. And it had their name, their former profession, and some information about them. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, wow, that was a really cool thing that he did to build rapport. He happened to know some of the stories of the people inside of this book. And so he used his knowledge of what was inside of this book and these other people's stories to be able to build a bridge and to relate to that person and to be able to share a common testimonial of someone else who was successful. So I thought to myself, maybe I should memorize all the stories in that book. That way I can learn about people's professions. And then when I hear about what their professions are, if I happen to run across someone that is in real estate, and I know a couple stories of people who are in real estate in this book because I read it and I memorized it, well, then maybe that would increase my ability to build a bridge, to prospect, to pull a number, and to recruit that person. So I borrowed that idea, but then just added it in my own personality. And I actually remember something really interesting about this scenario is I didn't just read every single story in that book. And it was a thick book of all these people's stories. But I read and studied and then color coded every single person's story in there based on their personality type, based on the 4 colors, right? Some of you guys have maybe heard my trainings on the different personality types, right? Reds, blues, yellows, and greens, sharks, dolphins, urchins, whales. You may have heard me do trainings like this before. I'm going to have a podcast episode that's going to talk more about it that I'll be dropping soon. But I actually read all of those people's stories and then color coded it. And then if I met a realtor and they were a blue, I would make sure that I showed them a story of a realtor who was a blue inside of the book. Is that next level gangster or what? You see, I was a possibility thinker, and I wasn't just the type of person who said, you know what? I can't do what this person does, so therefore I'll never be successful in this business. But I see that happening all the time. I see people who are spiritual and woke, see people who are materialistic and go, nah, they're too materialistic. They're too materialistic for me. I am holy and spiritual and woke. And so therefore I cannot relate to these other people. And therefore this business, since these people are succeeding and they're materialistic and I am not, therefore this business is not for me. I am above it. They are below me. They are not awakened as much as I am. They're still caught up in the material world of things, whereas I'm more in the metaphysical world of spirituality and being and lights and love. Well, good. Now, why don't you be the person that ends up being that example for everyone else who maybe they don't have enough examples of that? When I see someone else doing something, or a lot of people doing something one way, one type of person, when I was new and less mature, I looked at those people and said, well, I don't see any other people like me that are in this kind of business. Maybe this thing isn't for me. I'll never forget, again, talking to my mentor, Mr. Larry Gregory. I opened up that book and I started looking for other stories in there. And I started looking for young, brown-skinned people like myself to determine whether or not I had what it took to succeed. Before I knew any better, I was using the prior success of other people and what they looked like as my justification on whether or not I could also succeed. So when I opened up this book, I remember the Profiles of Success. I opened up this book and I looked at it and I said to my mentor, I said, well, man, there's no young Hispanics in this book. Man, I don't know if I got what it takes to make it, because there's been no one else that's been like me that's made it, that looks like me in this book. And I'm flipping through and it's all these old white people and, it's all these people that have got these fancy backgrounds. They're all older. They're all more successful, come from successful backgrounds. They come from bigger cities, right? I had all these stories and I said, I don't think this is for people like me. And I almost let it psych me out into believing that I couldn't make it because no one else had made it before me. Like, what a weak-minded attitude that I had. Like, what a weak mindset I had at that time. But I was young, I didn't know any better, and I'm trying to give you guys some $1 million game here so that you don't fall into these same traps and make these same mistakes that I did. Instead, what I did, thanks to my mentor giving me some $1 million knowledge, when I shared that with my mentor, he said to me, be the first. Why are you worrying about who else has made it that looks like you? Why don't you focus on being a trailblazer and a leader? And why don't you be the first one to look like you inside of this book so that maybe someone else down the road, they don't have to say what you're saying. You're focused on trying to be a follower. Why don't you be a leader? That was some $1 million game that he put me onto. And it woke me up and I said, yeah, wait a second. Why don't I be the first? Yeah, I'm going to be the first. Instead of trying to be a follower, let me be a leader. And it's the same thing. When I saw all these people that were building their business a certain way, I thought to myself, wow, these guys are killing it like that. And no one's doing it the way that I want to do it. Why don't I be the first? But let me tell you what I did not do. I did not make a whole bunch of excuses about what I could and could not do based on how other people were doing things. So you have to be very careful, because a lot of times we end up watching what other people are doing and we get intimidated by it, or we use it as a justification to make ourselves feel good. You have to be aware that your subconscious mind is trying to protect you at all times. It's what it's wired to do. You're wired for survival. That's what you're wired for. It's what your brain is, fight or flight, right? It's not wired for like, ooh, let me push the boundaries of all my comfort zones and succeed. And it's not wired like your caveman brain is not wired like that, right? Your reptilian brain, fight or flight. And you will constantly seek to appease yourself in situations where you feel like you can't live with the story that would actually occur if you bought into your own BS on a real note. So your brain comes up with your subconscious mind comes up with very clever stories, and excuses to help you rationalize things like quitting and not doing the work. So for example, you might see something like someone else succeeding, and instead of you saying, well, man, they can do it, I can do it. If you're intimidated by that person or doing something that you can't do, typically your brain will seek to make an excuse and it'll say, well, I'm above that person. I'm more spiritually woke than that person. That person's materialistic. I'm not. Therefore, I think I'm a little too good for this thing. I don't think this, and you'll use some fancy terms. Be aware of the fancy terms. Usually the fancier the terms that someone uses, the more they are bullshitting themselves and others, right? There's a big difference when someone says, I need to do my research to you. If they say that to you, that sometimes is authentic. When someone says, well, of course I need to do my due diligence, fancier word of research, you're bullshitting. You don't need to do your due diligence. You're scared. You're afraid. You don't have the money. It's usually something else. So when someone says something real fancy, like, well, I don't really resonate with this. I feel like I'm not in vibrational alignment with the other people in this company, and I'm really unsure if my inner being is in alignment with this opportunity. Really? You're scared? You don't think you have what it takes? You're afraid that because you can't do what someone else does, you're not going to be able to succeed in your way? Instead of looking at someone else and going, wow, I don't really resonate with building my business in that way. So it's going to be really interesting to see if I can smoke that person building business in my own way. Some of you guys got to just adapt a little bit more swagger. You can be happy for other people, but listen to some of these rappers, listen to some of these rappers, Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, Drake. They're talking about how they're number one and how they're going to eat all these other people's lunch. They're like, yo, if this is who you guys are feeling at the number one spot, yo, wait till I come in. Oh man, shoot, they ain't seen nothing like me. They ain't seen a spiritual gangster yet. Oh man, I can't wait to be the one. Yo, this whole company is going to fall in love with me because they've never seen anyone come in. So far, I'm looking around and I don't see anyone else that's like me. You don't go, oh man, geez, that sucks. I guess I can't make it. You go, oh man, that's exciting. I get to be the first. I'm going to be the most spiritual, cool gangster in this business. I'm going to love on everyone. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to uplift everyone around me. But low key, I'm going to smoke some of these fools. Watch my ascend to the top. Right? You can have some of that in you. It's okay. It's okay if you have that. If you're competitive, a lot of athletes, a lot of people are very competitive. They get off on that. It's okay. There's room for everyone at the top. The beautiful thing about success in this type of industry is when you succeed, you're not taking away from anyone else. But if you got to play some head games with yourself because you're a competitive person, you look around and you go, yo, man, like, is this who you guys are feeling? This is who's killing it? Man, good for them. But man, this company ain't seen nothing like me. And then do what needs to be done to get to where you need to go. But a warning to you, don't make a bunch of excuses about what you won't do. I actually had a blog post about this a while ago. Probably still up there. You could find it. I forgot what I titled it. It was an old blog post that I wrote, and I remember that I had a picture of a homeless person. And what I actually shared in my post is I said, the broker you are, the less rules you get to have. The broker you are, the less rules you get to have. For example, what are the rules for a homeless person when it comes to food? Very little rules because they don't have a lot of money, right? If they're reaching into a garbage and they're pulling out someone's leftover sandwich, their rules are not, oh, what is this, McDonald's? Oh yeah, man, I don't mess with all those GMOs and all that stuff. That stuff is poison. No, if they're starving to death and they're broke, they reach in there and they look at it and they go, is there any mold on it? Okay, a little bit. Let me just dust that off, wipe it off on my pants. If you're homeless, you don't get to have a whole lot of rules. If it's moldy, you just brush the mold off of the food and then you eat it. Now, when you're successful and you've got lots of money, you get to be really picky, right? You get a chance to say, well, hey, I don't eat that kind of food. You know what? I only eat vegan food that has no GMOs, and anything that I eat is organic. If you got the bankroll to do that, you have the opportunity to do that. You're able to, it's totally cool. It's totally fine. But if you don't have that kind of money, if you don't have those kind of resources, then you don't have the right to be able to make a whole bunch of rules about what you will and won't do, because it will only cause you to starve. It'll only cause you to starve. And that's what I see happening a lot in network marketing. People come in and they go, well, I don't want to cold call my friends and family, and I don't want to do this on social media, and I don't want to do that, and they create all these rules. And then what ends up happening is they limit themselves and the potential of opportunity that they have, because they're so obsessed with creating a whole bunch of rules of what they will and they won't do, instead of just looking at their bank account and going, my bank account says I don't get to be that picky. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow the system and get out of my comfort zone. And I'm going to maybe look at some of the things that I'm doing and some of the stories that I'm creating. And I'm instead going to ask myself, well, how can I do this and still be happy? Some people say things like, oh, I'm not going to cold call my friends and family. Well, do you believe in what you have? Do you have a great opportunity? Does what you have the ability to set people free? Maybe it hasn't set you free, but maybe it's set other people free within your company. Why would you want to keep that from them? Because you're so caught up in being afraid of whether or not they look at you like some salesperson? Why not just go, okay, well, wait a second. I don't have a problem talking with my friends and family, but how can I do it so I don't come across as salesy? It's a totally different conversation, isn't it? That's a higher level way of thinking. So instead, you can just look at the situation and you can say, okay, how can I do this without being salesy? Well, then you can say very quickly and easily, you can simply just say, okay, I'm going to call and expose people to this, but I'm not going to be attached to the outcome, and I'm not going to come across as salesy, but I will make sure that I do a good enough job at presenting this to where the information is outlined and it's clear and people can make a great decision that is very easy for them to see the truth and what the best decision is for them. So how can I do this without coming across as salesy? Okay, simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come across to these people, and I'm just going to call them up and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I don't know if this is something that you'd be interested in or not, but I didn't want to go ahead and prejudge you and decide for you. I, in fact, thought that this might not even be something that is up your alley. But the last thing that I wanted to do was hear what I heard and know what I know about this opportunity that's just been dropped on my lap that I've been so excited about and so blessed that I have, and not tell you about it because I assume that you might not be interested because of whatever their personality, their background, whatever reason you think they might not be excited about it. Say, look, I didn't want to go ahead and assume that this wouldn't be for you. I didn't want to decide that for you. So I just wanted to reach out to just say, look, I can't promise you anything. I don't even know if this is something you'd be interested in, but I just wanted to ask you if you saw a way where you could make some pretty serious money on the side on top of what you're already doing, and it didn't interfere with what you're already doing, would that be something that you'd even be interested in? And if they happen to say, yeah, actually that would be, well, then you can simply say, okay, cool. All right, well, then I guess the next step from this point is I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about this thing, this beautiful, crazy story that I have, and this thing that just dropped on my lap. And if you want to learn more about it, I can go ahead and log you onto some information that you can take a look at. But basically, here's the deal, right? Very non-salesy. And you can say, look, I don't care if you do this or not, if you're interested or not. I just wanted to be a good friend and not prejudge you. And I wanted to at least let you see what I saw so that you can decide for yourself. But I just want you to know, if you're not interested in this, I'm not going to try to convince you to be interested in this. If you don't want to do it, I don't want you to do it more than you don't want to do it. And in fact, I can't even promise you that if you do want to do this, that my mentor is going to want to sow into you and personally work with you the way that he is me. But what I will at least do is I will at least put in a good word for you if you like what you see. Sound good? Make sense? Okay, great. And then you can just go from there. Do you see the difference in that? Instead of just making an arbitrary rule of, well, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. Well, I don't want to walk up to total strangers. Why? You don't want to potentially bless someone else? You don't want to potentially change someone's life? You don't want to take a stranger, another fellow human being who might be hurting, and you don't want to let them know about something that you're really excited about that's changed other people's lives and is on the way to possibly changing yours. You don't want to tell them. You don't want to approach them because why? You're afraid that they might look at you weird for approaching them. So you create a story about, oh, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to go prospect anyone. Oh, I'm not, no, not me. I'm an introvert, hardcore. So you're never going to grow. You're just going to stay there. You're just going to attach this story to yourself and never grow from it. That's sad. I'm promising you, I promise you, you do not want that to be your life. It's an opportunity for you to grow, and it's an opportunity for you to change someone's life. Instead of making a rule about what you won't do, look at your situation and then decide. If you look at your bank account and you go, man, got multiple six figures in my bank. I don't feel like getting out of my comfort zone. All right, fine, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't bless someone else. Don't grow. Stay in your little shell because you're afraid of rejection. But of course, it's not really because you're afraid of rejection. Of course, you're going to make up some better story than that. Because you couldn't possibly live with yourself if you just said, I'm afraid of rejection. You just say, oh, I'm just not that type of person. It's not my personality. It's not what I vibrationally align with. You'll say something cooler. Your subconscious mind will give you something really cool so that you can feel good about not getting outside of your comfort zone. But really, it's, you're just being a chicken. You're scared. But use it as an opportunity to grow. What if I never grew? What if I create all these rules? Like, I'm never going to prospect anyone. I'm only going to talk to people that I know. And if I run out of all those people, which I did, then I'm just going to quit. There's a lot more people that you don't know than you do know. So how cool would it be to learn how to talk to everyone everywhere and to be able to change the life of a total stranger? Turn a stranger into a friend, because a stranger is nothing than an unmet friend. And when you learn how to talk business with people you don't know, then you literally will never run out of prospects, and you can write your own paycheck. And there's a very strong guarantee that you will be massively successful because you'll have solved the number one problem, which is not having to worry about running out of prospects. It's the number one problem that people have is they worry about running out of prospects, and they run out of prospects because they don't know how to turn the billions of people on this earth into friends, and then prospects, and then customers, or business partners. So stop creating all these different rules. Look at your situation for what it really is. And even if you are successful enough to where you can make a bunch of rules, like I'm not going to do this on social media, I'm not going to do this. Even if you are successful and you're a little snooty about what you will and won't do, still challenge yourself to do some of this stuff just to get out of your comfort zone. And if you're looking at someone else and you go, oh, what they're doing is cringy, it's not my personality, I don't want to do it like that, then don't do it like that. But like I said earlier, learn what you can from that person and then put it into your own personality. That is my message today. I'm excited for you. If you got something from this training, let me know. Reach out, let me know that you watched it. And let's stay in touch because I want to follow your journey and I want to help you along the way. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Drop a comment, show some love, and let me know if you got value from this video. I'm so bold, I'm so bold, I'm so bold, yo, I'm so bold, I'm so bold.